So welcome. Today, this is a webinar around mastering business continuity with the ISO 22301, strategies for real world resilience. And this is a PCB webinar with combination of Think Risk International. We'll just go through our slides. So the introduction is the experience of the webinar host, so that's Matt and myself, Mick. We'll talk about the webinar etiquette. We'll go through some key learning objectives for the session that we're about to go through today. There'll be a bit of technical material that will be available after this session. We'll go through some start and finishing time. So the start time is 10 o'clock, of course, Australian Western Standard Time. And then we'll have some questions at the end. I'll be about 15 minutes. So, I guess introduction, myself. I'm an experienced senior leader across heavy industries. I've had about 35 years experience in various sectors with transport, logistics, mining. I did a lot of mining with commodity groups around diamonds, coal, bauxite, iron ore and gold. I worked in oil and gas, upstream and downstream, marine and maritime construction and manufacturing environments, both EPC and EPCM. The majority of my career have been in production and operational roles, transforming and developing large-scale teams and leading HSSEQ at senior levels across global operations. My global and regional responsibilities have included Australia, of course, because that's where I live, all the way through Southeast Asia, China, Europe, the GCC through the Middle East, Southern Africa, New Zealand, and North and South America. Supported a whole range of businesses around the health, safety and security and environment aspects. Did a lot of work in the quality space. And then I was an RTO chief executive for a while for a tyre management company. So in my time, I worked with Instant Production. They're a large FPSO producer. They do marine construction. I was their head of safety for major projects. I was an executive manager for corporate HSSEQ across the Middle East for Malaha, which was an organisation based out of Qatar. And I was DPA for some of those places. Entrepreneur International, I was the head of HSSEQ for their global operations and CEO of their registered training organisation, which was their tyre technology qualifications that they used to provide. Worked with Bridgestone Mining Solutions Australia, as the International Zero Harm Leader, and I was also the General Manager for Actuant Energy across Asia Pacific. Worked with a small marine company in Australia known as Cairns Group, and worked for Rio Tinto and Anglo American in mining as their health and safety manager and in contractor safety and practical mining as a mine superintendent and dragline drill and blast. So that's a little bit about me. I'll just introduce you, Matt. Now, Matt, would you like to talk about yourself?
Yes, thanks, Mick. Okay, so currently the Chief Operations Officer for Think Risk International. We oversee a offshoring team and manage the audit and compliance department where we develop a lot of management systems, business continuity plans for organisations. We also have an open source intelligence capability. Also in there, work for Instant Production as well with Mick, so the head of security and emergency response, where I oversee all of the emergency systems within the organisation globally and organise any evacuations, medical repatriations, etc. Prior to that, then I worked as the Director of Audit and Compliance for Lockforce Consultancy, where again I overseen the Audit and Compliance department, develop systems and processes for a lot of organisations and business continuity plans. Also had open source intelligence capability there. My qualifications, so I've got the Masters in Business Continuity, Security and Emergency Management, postgrad in Security and Risk Management, and then Project Management and Occupational Health and Safety, and a Certified Lead Auditor in Quality, so 9001, 45001, 28001, which is Supply Chain Security, and business continuity, and then information security as well.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for introducing and I love the photo. Next one. Please, everyone, please ensure your microphones and your webcams are off. Matt and I will be doing our presentation, so certainly write down your questions, but feel free to ask your questions in the chat as we go, and the PCB team will collect them and collate them, and as we get to the end, we'll answer them as we can. There will be 15 minutes at the end for open Q&A for the participants. If you have any questions, please write them down. What we can't answer today, we'll be able to provide information post the webinar. So we'll get all your details and we'll be able to write to you and talk to you offline. The slide deck and the presentation will be shared with everyone. So after the webinar, you'll have the details of the webinar, and we'll be available after the session to answer any additional questions, as I said. So our contact details will be as part of the webinar, and you will get a chance to write a little survey to provide us with some feedback about, I guess, our participation and our content, even our presentation style, of course. So the key learning objectives, what we're going to do, provide you by the end of this webinar, you'll have an understanding of the principles of business continuity, and it's important to the organisational resilience for businesses. You will gain some practical knowledge of how to conduct a business impact assessment, a BIA, to identify critical activities and the dependencies on where the organisation has failure points. You'll be able to learn the structured process for developing a business continuity plan, a BCP. You'll get used to a few acronyms as we go through this webinar, but you'll be able to reference them in the definitions page. So the BCP will reflect real operational needs. And you'll also understand how to test, validate, and maintain the continuity plan through ongoing exercises and updates and drills and activities that you'll do within your organisation. Now, this is only a 45-minute session, so we're not going to be able to learn everything about business continuity. Just to get, I guess, a broad understanding. But if you'll need more detail, certainly you contact Matt and myself at the end of this webinar. So, what is business continuity and what is it? We're going to introduce you to the business impact assessments and the BCPs, the business continuity plans. In the business impact assessment development, we're going to talk about that in phase one. We're going to define the scope and the objectives. We're going to identify critical activities and the dependencies. We're going to assess the impact and recovery requirements. We're then going to prioritise activities for recovery and then validate and maintain information in the BIA. On the phase two part of the agenda, we're going to talk about how to write the BCP, the business continuity plan, how to define the BCP objectives and scope, then how to develop a response and recovery strategies, document the plan structure and content, and then again, review and validate and approve the plan. Now, obviously, of course, the phase three is around testing and maintaining of the BCP. We want to test and exercise it and then maintain and improve the BCP process, utilising the Plan, Do, Check, Act process that Deming produced years ago. After that, we'll have some questions and answers for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then there will be a feedback form with a QR code that you'll be able to take a screenshot while we're in this webinar, but you'll also get this at the end of the session. Now, what is business continuity? Business continuity is fundamentally about keeping essential business operations, and I think that's really important for this call. It's around essential business operations running during and after a disruption, whether it's a cyber attack, a natural disaster, a power outage, or a supply chain breakdown. And it focuses on identifying the critical functions that must be maintained or restored quickly to minimise financial, legal, and reputational impact. It focuses on minimising downtime by preparing the contingencies and the workarounds that you need to ensure your organisation can continue running. It maintains trust with customers, so it focuses on ensuring that regulators and stakeholders have trust by ensuring service delivery even in adverse conditions. So, for example, a bank experiencing a system outage must still ensure customers can access their funds so they can maintain their transactions through alternative means, whether that means different types of delivery, call centres or branches. We need to ensure that they have different types of ways to maintain those transactions and cash flow. Oops, that's right. So what is business continuity again? So the standards that we're talking about today refer back to the PCB standards that are available on the PCB websites, which you'll be able to access at the end of this webinar. The ISO standards that provide you with a framework to put processes in place is obviously the 22,301 Business Continuity for Management Systems, 22,313 the Societal Security Business Continuity Management Systems and the guidance of those, 22,317 Business Continuity Management Systems, and it's about the guidelines for business impact analysis. Very good technical document for people that want to understand how the business impact analysis works. ISO 22,320, Societal Security Emergency Management, requirements for incident response. ISO PAS 22,399, Societal Security Guideline for Incident Preparedness and Operational Continuity Management. ISO 22,316, Societal Security for Organisational Resilience, Principles and Guidelines. ISO 22,331, Security and Resilience for Business Continuity Management Systems. And then ISO 22,398, Societal Security Guidelines for Exercises and Drills. Matt, any comments?
So with these standards, it's important that you actually do, they all have to form the same structure, but there's a tiered approach. So the emergency management is the first one from an emergency management point of view. Then that helps identify the business continuity issues that can come out of an emergency. So the emergency management team would respond to any incidents that could occur. And this will highlight which critical processes may be impacted from the relevant emergency. Then the standards around business continuity will look at resuming those critical processes to the business that may come out of an emergency.
Fantastic. Thanks, Matt. So what do we need a BCP? So we need a BCP to minimise downtime, protect assets and maintain customer trust. Now, to minimise downtime, a BCP helps to ensure that the essential business functions can continue during and after a disruption. So when you have an O moment, you need to have a BCP to reduce the time it takes to return to normal operations. Protecting the assets, by having the plan in place, companies can safeguard their physical and their digital assets, including their data and equipment facilities, but also their core assets that ensures that the business continues as designed and how they make money. That risks and opportunity piece is really important to understand what assets you need to protect to maintain continuity in your business activities. Ensuring that you maintain customer trust is key. If you lose customer trust, then essentially, your supply chain and your customer chain is broken. So you need to have consistent service delivery, even during crises, to help maintain customers' confidence and loyalty. People know that things happen every now and then, but they also want to know that you can get back on your feet quickly and recover, and that their customer base is really important. You have a customer-centric relationship. The compliance and the legal obligations are really important. In many industries, the regulations that require businesses to have a BCP. Compliance with these regulations can prevent legal issues and fines. And essentially, to ensure that your legal obligations, and understanding that depending on which country that you're in as participants, you'll have a legal obligations register which will determine where your opportunities are to maintain your compliance for various legal applications. So, why else do we need a BCP? Financial stability. A well-executed BCP can mitigate any financial losses by ensuring that revenue-generating activities continue and by reducing the costs associated with downtime and recovery. So that financial losses, that ensuring that we don't lose too much money, lose too much, bleeding too much cash flow, is critical for an organisation. In terms of employee safety and morale, the BCP includes measures to protect employees during the emergencies, which can boost morale and ensure their well-being. We need workers to maintain trust in the organisation so that we can ensure that they feel safe and comfortable and can respond and get back to work, so we can have resilience back in the organisation. Reputation management. We need effective continuity planning to ensure a company's reputation and demonstrate resilience and preparedness. That gives confidence to not only the people that work for us or you, it also gives confidence to the supply chain and gives confidence to the clients, so that we can ensure that we can get back on our feet. People know when there's an O moment, they can deal with that. Communication is absolutely critical in these type of events. The BCP is also a really important aspect to maintaining competitive advantage. Companies with robust BCPs are often better positioned to recover quickly from these disruptions, giving them an edge over competitors who may struggle to respond effectively. And communication, as we said, is really important through this part, so that you can deal with the O moment. And when companies have a bit of a breakdown, you can actually plan around that and help them recover quicker, and then you form stronger relationships. In essence, the BCP is vital for ensuring that a company can withstand and recover from unexpected events, thereby securing its long-term success and stability. So definitions and terms. The business continuity management is a BCM. It's a holistic management process that identifies potential threats to an organisation and the impacts to business operation. It provides a framework for building organisational resilience and the capability for an effective response. And that comes out directly out of the business continuity 22,301 document. The BCP, the business continuity plan, it's documented procedures that guide organisations to respond, recover, resume, and restore to a predefined level of operation following a disruption. Again, it comes straight out of the 22,301 document. The business impact analysis, the BIA. It's the process of analysing the effect of a disruption on business functions, including the determination of time-critical activities and the resources required for continuity and recovery. And that source comes out of 22,317, the guidelines for business impact analysis. You read all these documents, haven't you, Matt?
I have.
I know you have. So, business continuity isn't just about reacting to crisis. It's about building capacity across the organisation and about being prepared, being able to respond and recover throughout the process as quickly and as effectively as possible. So for preparedness, we need to ensure training of staff on roles and responsibilities. Role clarity is critical for preparedness for an organisation. Documenting business continuity plans. You need to ensure you have really detailed understanding of the plans on how to respond. Conducting business impact analysis and risk assessments. We need to run simulations and table exercises. That's the preparedness. For response, immediate actions taken to contain or manage an incident, and that will include immediate countermeasures to contain further losses, or it's for further long-term countermeasures that can build resilience for an organisation and learn from activities. Activation of the BCPs and communication protocols, and the roles that are going to play a part in the emergency for an organisation are important to understand how that first response and post-response activities will be undertaken. Through the recovery of an event, the gradual restoration of operations to predefined levels, the RTO, which is the recovery time objectives, and then the RPO, which is the recovery point objectives. And we want to review and learn from the event to strengthen future responses. This cycle ensures an organisation can respond quickly, effectively, and recover strategically. Now, you've seen a lot of organisations go through these type of events. When you've seen them do this, have they used this same preparation cycle?
To be honest, a lot of organisations don't put enough time in the preparedness phase. Most organisations rely on the inherent knowledge of the key personnel in the business to be able to respond and recover. So if organisations actually put the time and effort into the preparedness part of this process, the response and the recovery will be easier, and also won't be as dependent on key people in the organisation. In an emergency, in a real situation, you may not have those people with the key knowledge available, so we need a documented plan, and that is outlined, and all the information is found in the preparedness phase.
Thanks for that. So we've learned about what business continuity plan. So what business continuity is not. So business continuity is not just an IT disaster recovery plan, an ITDR. The IT disaster recovery plan focuses narrowly on restoring technology systems like servers, networks, databases. The BCM covers the whole organisation. So the business continuity management covers the whole organisation, including HR, finance, operations, legal, etc. So business continuity is not a crisis management plan. A crisis management plan guides how leaders make decisions and coordinate during a crisis. That may include a local team, it may include a regional team, it may include a global team on how to deal with stuff during the event when it's happening. It involves strategic oversight, resource coordination, and situational control. A crisis management plan activates the BCP, but it is not a BCP. A crisis in the business continuity is not a crisis communication plan. A CCP finds how and what to communicate during a disruption, internally and externally. It includes media handling, customer updates, and stakeholder messaging. It supports both the crisis management plan and the business continuity plan, but doesn't replace either. You have them in place for different reasons why. So, the ISO 22301 Business Continuity Management Lifecycle. This diagram on the right illustrates the core components of a business continuity management system under the ISO 22301. At the centre is leadership, planning and support, critical paths for running an organisation. That drives the BCM process through commitment, resources and oversight. Surrounding the four key lifecycle stages. Number one is the business impact analysis and risk assessment that identifies the critical functions and assesses how disruptions can affect operations. Number two, business continuity strategy. Developing practical strategies to maintain or recover those critical functions is key to the success of the organisation. The business continuity procedures. Documenting clear response plans and recovery steps in the usual continuity plan. And number four, exercise and test. Regularly validate and improve the plan through testing and training. So, how do we develop a BCP? There's a three-phase business continuity management process. Phase one, BI development. Define the BI objectives and scope. Identify the critical activities and dependencies. Assess the impact and recovery requirements, and prioritise activities. Phase two, writing the BCP. Want to define the BCP objectives and scope, develop the response and recovery strategies, document the plan, structure and the content, then review, validate and approve the plan. And then phase three, test and maintain. So we test and exercise the BCP and maintain and improve the BCP. So phase one, developing the business impact assessment. We need to define the scope. We need to identify the critical activities and the dependencies. We need to assess an impact and recovery requirements. We need to prioritise activities for recovery, validate and maintain information in the BIA. So, defining the scope and objectives. This step sets the foundation for the BIA by clearly defining what will be assessed, why it's being done, and who should be involved. Clarify the purpose of conducting the BIA, define the scope, along with the organisation's strategic objectives and their appetite, identifying regulatory, customer and drivers for continuity, determining the time frame and expected outputs of the assessment, assign ownership, and communicate the purpose and expectations to all stakeholders involved. Step 2, on identifying critical processes, we need to map out each time critical activity, how it runs, and what it relies on, so it impacts and the recovery targets are realistic. So in terms of the dependency register, we should work out what the activity is, name, owner, purpose, what people are involved in it, what technology is going to be impacted, the interfaces, facilities, locations, geography, what third parties will be impacted, so suppliers, service level agreements, etc., and what workarounds we use to set that up. And out of that, we need to have a process around what time critical activity and how it gets impacted. So step 3, you want to rate the dependencies. So this is an example of how you could rate a dependency table, and you need to have a table, I guess, specific for your organisation. We put a table in here with a 4-level process, so low, moderate, high, and critical in terms of the dependency rating. We put down a description for each of those rating scales, and we use a current state, not the ideal state. So, and you need to calibrate these with process owners. I'll wait for the slide to catch up a bit. So this step 4, we need to assess the impact and set recovery targets. This step helps us understand how long our business can tolerate downtime and what recovery goals must be set to minimise damage. So evaluating impact over time. So we've put an example down there of 0 to 4 hours, 4 to 24 hours, or 1 to 3 days. Impact could be, 1 day to 2 days, could go into weeks, depending on the, I guess, the impact time set and the levels of impact that you have for your organisation. Assess across the impact categories: the financial, legal, reputational, customer. Assign the impact severity rating using a standard scale. Determine the recovery time objective, so which is the acceptable downtime per activity. Determine your recovery point objectives, which is your acceptable data loss tolerance, and then define the maximum acceptable outage, if applicable. Justify your ratings to support transparent decision making. At the end of the day, it's about documenting your activities to ensure that you can meet your requirements for your organisation. Step 4, assessing impact and setting recovery targets. We've put some timeframes around this, and as we said, this is an example. Those impact over time targets could be over a period of days. So the buckets need to be determined for your organisation for your maximum reasonable outcomes. Have the impact lenses around financial, regulatory, customer, operational, and reputation. Justify your score using a consistent wonderful scale with some short rationale. The outcomes will be, and you'll have a lot of people wanting to change the colours and talk about how important things are at one end of the scale. Setting your targets around your downtime, your losses, and your outer dependency limits, and then cross-check those dependencies. So high-rated dependencies often drive shorter RTOs. Prioritising your activities. With impact assessed, prioritisation ensures that the most critical operations are restored first during a disruption. We need to rank the activities based on the combined impact, urgency, and dependency ratings. We use our MAO, our RTO, and dependency scores to build a recovery priority list. We need to group the activities into tiers. Immediate, within 24 hours, within 72 hours as an example. That could be days, hours, weeks, depending on the BCP requirements. We need to identify the processes requiring immediate attention during disruption. We need to consider the cross-functional interdependencies, so sequencing makes sense. And we need to align with customer, regulatory, and strategic expectations. And again, document your prioritisation decisions and rationale to guide your phase 2 for the BCP development. Step 5. This example shows how to document process, its dependencies, the potential impacts over time, and when it becomes unacceptable to be offline for the maximum acceptable outage. Use this format to keep your BIA clear, consistent, and ready to inform your continuity plan. There's an example of dependencies, the impact scenarios, and the description of the impact, and then your impact over time. Step 6, to validate and maintain. The business impact assessment must remain accurate over time. This step ensures that findings are reviewed, approved, and updated regularly. Review the BIA findings with process owners and management. Validate the accuracy of the recovery time objectives, your recovery point objectives, and your dependencies. Adjust the changes in your business structure systems or your risk landscape. Formalise the sign-off and store the approved BIA securely. Integrate the results into the BCP development. And set a regular review annually or after major changes. Communicate updates to all relevant teams and departments. Any comments?
The most important thing you can get out of the BIA is that you require the input from the right people. So there may be a manager that may be responsible for the processes, but the information will come from the personnel that work in that, who are doing the process day to day. You can't expect a manager to know the specifics of a process because it's generally done by a subordinate. So when you are doing these BIAs, make sure you involve the right level of personnel. So engage with the people that are doing the process and get the information from them.
Okay, thanks, Matt. We just had a note to say defining the BCP objectives and scope, developing the response and recovery strategies, and documenting the plan structure and content, then reviewing, validating, and approving the plan. Step 1, defining the BCP objectives and scope. The first step in the BCP development is to clearly outline what the plan aims to achieve, who it covers, and under what circumstances it is activated. We want to define the purpose to ensure the continuity of essential operations during disruption. We want to establish the scope, site-specific, department-specific, or enterprise-wide. Identifying the BCP owner and the plan coordinators. We want to clarify the triggers for plan activation. For example, is it an IT outage? Is it a facility loss? Or is it staff unavailability? We want to determine the applicable recovery timeframes from the business impact assessment. We want to ensure alignment with the organisation's risk appetite statement and the resilience strategy, and coordinate with crisis and emergency management protocols. Step 2. This focuses on selecting practical strategies that enable the organisation to maintain or quickly restore critical functions identified in the BIA. We want to define alternate methods to perform critical processes, manual workarounds, or alternate supplies, for example. We want to identify backup facilities, remote work options, or relocation strategies. We want to document procedures for partial or full loss of systems, staff, or infrastructure. We want to align response strategies with recovery time objectives. We want to consider internal and external dependencies, for example, the IT, logistics, vendors, people that are part of our supply chain. We want to integrate cybersecurity, safety, and regulatory requirements into the strategies. Step 3, the plan structure and the content. The BCP should be well organised, accessible, and easy to follow under pressure. This step focuses on assembling the plan components into a usable format, We want to create plan sections, introduction, activation criteria. Roles and responsibilities need to be clear. Response actions and recovery steps. We want to include contact lists, internal, external, emergency services. That contact list is really important and needs to be maintained and up to date. You need to insert job action sheets or role-specific checklists so people know what to do, so they have clarity in what their role is when business continuity comes. We need to add communication protocols, internal announcements, stakeholder updates, how to deal with media, important. We need to include resource lists, equipment, software, templates. We need to reference dependency and prioritisation data from the business impact assessment. And we need to ensure formatting is clean and printable with digital and physical copies. Step 4, review and approve the plan. Once the BCP is drafted, it must be validated by relevant stakeholders to ensure it is accurate, realistic, and operationally sound. You want to conduct a walkthrough of the plan with process owners and BCP team. You would like to confirm alignment with BIA outputs and current operational practices. We want to review contact details, location specifics, and supplier arrangements. These all need to be up to date. We want to identify any gaps, unrealistic timelines, or resource assumptions. We want to secure executive approval and assign plan ownership and prepare the plan for distribution and training. So, phase 3, testing and maintenance of the BCP. Step 1, testing and exercise on the BCP. Testing validates the practicality of your business continuity strategies and removes gaps in the procedures, any communication or awareness before a real incident occurs. We do this by tabletop exercises. We simulate disruptions through structured discussions, useful for validated procedures and decision making. We have walkthroughs. We review the plan step by step with staff to check understanding and identify gaps. We do simulation drills. We practice live response scenarios. We have power outages, cyber attacks to test the recovery actions under pressure. We communicate and cascade the tests to teams. We confirm the accuracy of the contact lists and escalation procedures. We test the timings to ensure that we conduct it at least annually or after major changes. We record and review the outcomes. We document lessons learned and improvement actions. And then we link testing to improvement. We feed all those test results into plan updates and team training and continually learn and evolve as we go. Step 2, maintaining and improving the BCP. A business continuity plan is only effective if it reflects your current realities. Maintenance of that ensures that the BCP remains aligned with your organisation's people, systems, and structure. It needs to be practical and it needs to be real. We need to schedule regular reviews, at least annually, or after significant organisational or operational changes. We need to assign the ownership. Each plan should have a designated owner responsible for the upkeep of their area and their information. We need to update the critical information, contact lists, dependencies, recovery strategies, system configurations. When people move in an organisation, we need to make sure that they're updated so that we understand what the organisational chart looks like. We need to revisit the RTOs, the dependencies, and need to check that they still reflect the business priorities and the strategy. We need to audit and maintain compliance checks. Ensure the plan meets the internal and external requirements. Who's in control of it? Practice owners. Ensure the approvals are in place and distribute it as appropriate as updated plans to relevant stakeholders. Reinforce the organisational awareness. We need to include the continuity responsibilities in onboarding, and refresher training. So that's the theoretical steps of the BCP, the BIA, the RTO. So the next steps in your business continuity management journey, from awareness to action. What comes next? To strengthen your continuity capabilities with ISO 22301. Contact us at Think Risk International for further assistance in your own BCP. You can contact me there at mick@thinkrisk.com.au. We also want to have some takeaways from the session today. As we said, you can't take too much out of a 45-minute session. But what you've learned the purpose and the structure of business continuity management, how it's aligned with the ISO 22301. We've learned how to conduct a business impact assessment to identify critical functions, impacts, and dependencies. We learned the steps to develop a BCP using the business impact assessment outputs. We've learned the importance of testing, training, and maintaining your BCP for real-world readiness. We've learned how the BCM, the business continuity management, strengthens resilience, trust, and operational reliability across an organisation. You now have a roadmap to start or improve your business continuity journey. So, what is ISO 22301 certification matter? It's the global standard for business continuity management systems. It helps your organisation prepare for, respond to, and recover from disruptions. It adds credibility to customers, regulators, and partners. It improves risk management, governance, and compliance posture. It enables competitive advantage in procurement, audits, and strategic partnerships. Certification, especially for 22301, demonstrates not just preparedness, but leadership in continuity and resilience. How can we support you? We can provide accredited training on ISO 22301 at Foundation, Lead Implementer, and Lead Auditor levels. You can learn from certified experts with real-world BCM experience. We provide flexible delivery, instructor-led, online or hybrid. We provide certification exams and internationally recognised credentials. We'll give you the tools and the templates and guidance to implement and audit BCM systems effectively. PCB certified professionals are trusted worldwide for the continuity and risk expertise. So next steps. Turn today's learning in a certified capability. Explore PCB's ISO 22301 course catalogue at www.pcb.com. You can scan that QR code while you're on the screen, take a photo on the phone. It will take you through to the PCB website. You can enrol in an up-and-coming ISO 22301 Foundation or Implementer course. You can contact us at pcb@thinkrisk.com.au. Training for corporate certification. You can use the webinar as a springboard to formalise the skills. And consider aligning your team or your organisation to international continuity standards. The best time to prepare for disruption is before it happens. With the right training, you can lead that change. So, any questions about today's content? Do you need help? A lot more resources? We'd love your feedback. Scan the QR code and share your thoughts on today's webinar and the host. So, I guess we'll go to questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike and Matt, for the wonderful session. Hello, everyone. My name is Govin. I'm the Digital Marketing Officer for APAC at PCB. So we have actually received a couple of questions from our audience, but due to the time constraints, I will be only selecting a few to read out. So let's go with the first question, Mike and Matt. So the first question is that, how can we differentiate ERM with BCP or BCM? I'm aware that it attains to different level of risk, but at the same time, I would like to know the correlation of the two. Thank you.
It's a good question. So, from experience, so the emergency or the incident that occurs can escalate to an emergency and decrease if it continues, and then it can expand to a crisis. So what happens with we can be impacted by several different types of incidents, and those different types of incidents will impact different processes in the organisation. So this has always been the problem for people getting the confusion between emergency crisis management and business continuity. The crisis occurs, or the serious incident occurs, what processes or what critical processes are actually impacted will depend on the type of crisis that you are currently going through. So the business continuity plans also identify triggers. If those triggers are activated, then those will activate the resumption plans for key processes. So there's always a full understanding. So when you do the business impact assessment, you identify all of the processes in your organisation. Then we look at how long we can do without them, but what a key step is doing the risk assessment. What scenarios could occur that would activate an emergency or a crisis? Therefore, what processes are impacted? And then out of those processes, which ones are critical to the business?
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. So yes, there's one more I just sent. What is the role of security team in the BCP planning process, and how can you leverage their area of expertise in the initial risk assessment of testing plans?
Another good question. So the security function is probably a lot of people aren't aware of what that contributes. A lot of that is intelligence. So during a crisis, we'd be identifying what agencies are impacted, what processes are impacted, what resources are needed. Especially with social media now, there'll be social media monitoring. That's a security and intelligence function within the business continuity. And then feeding that information back up to the process management team, identifying what processes need to be or are impacted, and therefore what resumption plans need to be implemented. The security function will not just covers cyber-related security, but does also look at global level security as well.
We've got another question there, Matt.
Okay, this is, can you provide a sample or ideal drill scenarios in manpower intensive business operations? Well, so an example of some of the organisations that I have worked with are manpower intensive, especially with FPSO operations that require a lot of people in building them, thousands of people in certain situations. So it's about identifying what critical processes and then the resource requirements. If you think back to when Mick was mentioning about the dependency assessment, this is, I've done a very large business impact assessment before for another organisation. And I have to separate the dependency assessment because there were so many people involved in the process that it was a whole spreadsheet on its own, let alone the additional resources. So when we went through that, we identified the critical personnel. So we identified people who, if weren't in the business or weren't available, we call that a single point of failure. We identified that that was a huge gap if this incident occurred and we couldn't get access to that person. So then that assisted actually building redundancy in the business. So with resource intensive, I actually do the dependency, look at all the processes and look at the minimum resources from a people perspective to actually run that process.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I think that's all for today. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us. And I would also like to thank our audience for their active participation. So as we conclude, I would like to remind everyone that a recording of this webinar will be available on our website, and you will be informed via email once it's ready. And if you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to reach out to us. Once again, thank you very much, Matt and Mike. Thank you for everyone who joined us today. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
listening.